For almost 10 years in being in the model railroading hobby, I have finally received one of my most favorite engines of all time. The GTEL 8500 Big Bow locomotive. Welcome to Triple M Model Railroad. Good evening, everyone. This is Maurice from Triple M Model Railroad, aka Mega Mo. As you can see, I have finally, it's been a long time coming, received from Scale Trains the Big Blow GTEL 8500 series. And like I said, it's been a long time coming. Basically, when I got into the hobby, and that was back in, I believe it was in 07, me and my uncle was discussing about this particular engine, and I was telling him that that is one of my most favorite engines. Actually, if not the favorite. I mean, it's very close to the Big Boy, being one of my favorites. But I mean, they're almost neck and neck. But this one was very unique to my heart, and I was basically asking him for the availability of these engines in plastic. So he says basically look online and see if you can actually find one. And to my dismay, I have learned that no one has ever made these in plastic. And I couldn't even understand why. I mean, there was a bunch of brass models out there, but shelling out $3,000+ for a brass unit, which one didn't have the coaters, sometimes it didn't even have lights, and sometimes it wasn't even painted. To shell out that much money for a locomotive was just ridiculous. I mean, I don't care how much I love that engine. I was not dropping down no $3,000 and then I have to basically build this thing up almost from scratch to get this thing up and running. It was just too much of a headache. I mean, I've seen some run online, and they run. I mean, there's some talented people out there, and they got them up and running, and they run pretty darn good. But something told me, Mo, just wait. Somebody is going to come out with it. And sure enough, me and my uncle was talking about it maybe a few years ago. And it was like, I said, the best candidates or the best manufacturers that would actually come out with something like this will probably most likely Athens. And we both agree, yeah, Athens will be, because they will come out with something like this because, one, they came out with the DA40, they came out with the first versions of the Turbine, I think it was the 4500 series and the Veranda series. So I'm like, okay, so logically, we thought that, all right, they will come out with the Big Blow. To our surprise, this new company, Scale Trains, are basically 4 gentlemen from actually Athens. And it's almost like they were reading our minds. And they decided if they're going to do an engine, a flagship engine, they picked the right one. They did something that no one else has done in plastic. And when they made that announcement, I almost fell out the chair. I just couldn't believe they was actually going to do that. And fast forward a couple of years later, here it is. Here it is in all its glory. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start unpacking it, and I'm going to put it on this little test track. Yes, it's on my bed. Don't laugh. Yeah, this is what I got. I mean, I'm in a small apartment, so I don't have the luxury for, building big old layouts or whatever. I mean, I'm actually planning to build a makeshift table that I can actually, if I'm going to do any type of displays or test running, I'll just put a simple oval on it, buy some cottle track and put it together, and then we take it from there. So that's my future plan. Don't ask me when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to eventually do that. So I got all my test rigs together. I got my laptop and the lock sound programmer. Hopefully, actually, it will work with the lot. It should. I mean, everything is lock sound on that particular engine, so it should work without a hitch. So let's see what happens. So we're going to get this together. So hold tight. Okay, I'm going to open the box, and I'm going to look over the box a little bit. This has been well put together. I mean, very good craftsmanship on this. You got the very nice emblem in the front. And if you turn this over, you see all the specifications. This is what I failed to show you in the first video with my uncle's engine. I don't know if y'all can see that. It explains basically the short little specs and history, and this is the museum quality, of course you can see. I didn't want anything less than that. Very well done in the rear. I don't think anybody has shown this in any of the videos I've seen. Well, let me be the first. Very, very well done. Now I'm going to flip this back over. Now, I opened this before. I opened it yesterday. Received it yesterday. I just wanted to take a quick look at it. So this is not a virgin opening. So let's take a look. Pop this off. Open it up. All right. Very handy when it comes to the history of the engine, and also it talks about, or it has different settings, and DCC, basic DCC instructions, and what certain function does, and I kind of have an idea how to set this thing up, or not, but yeah, a lot of information. Lock sounds are pretty, I mean, in my opinion, they basically hit it out the park, deciding to go with lock sound, because lock sound, they basically, in my opinion, they're the best decoders out there. By far, and they have all the sound files for just about any engine that's out there. If you're into European engines, forget it. They have almost endless amount of sound files for those, and they support the U.S. engines very well. When it comes to sound files and functionality, so I mean, can't go wrong. Excuse me, I have a slight cold, so I may be hacking a little bit. Here's the parts list. There's like a gazillion parts. Yeah, I kind of skipped over. Yeah, but you get the idea. Very well. I like the booklet. Very nice. You get your greetings and thank you letter, and you have the 4 founders of this company sign it. Well, I mean, I don't think it's really signed, but that's all good. This is very, very nice. Very nice touch. How much I pay for it, don't really need to see that. And a nice little catalog you get with it. You know, it has all the different, the different products. So, and here it is. If I'm snuffling a little bit, you gotta excuse me. This cold been beating me in the teeth for the past couple of days. Something bad is actually going around, so I mean, everybody's sick in my apartment, thanks to me. But anyway, I work in a hospital, so you catch a lot of germs. But here it is. Here it is, in all of its beauty. Now, in this session, I'm going to take a careful look at each of the prototypes. And the reason being is because, you know, there's been issues with the one my uncle had gotten. And I'm going to try to grab, I got to hold the camera phone because I was going to film it with my other phone. I mean, not my other phone, my other camera, my camera, with the tripod, but I can't find the tripod, so I'm not going to go crazy. So, yeah, this is basically it. I mean, it's in good shape. I was looking at it over yesterday very carefully. It's in good shape. There is one dynamic brake vent that's actually not broken completely off, but it was similar to what my uncle's was. It's no big deal. I can glue that in 2 seconds. You know, I have everything I need to do what I need to do to make this thing perfect, or next to perfect. And I noticed the hoses. Some of the hoses were kind of concocted. When they packages, it got kind of pinched in. I don't know if you can see it. There's one right there that came off. I mean, no big deal, because you get like a whole slew of you get a whole slew of these. And actually, let me show you. It's in here. You get yourself a little magnifying glass with a light, which is a nice touch. I really like that. That was a really nice touch. They really put a lot of thought in this. And you get a little, like a medallion or a pin medallion. That's kind of geeky stuff, in my opinion. And here's the parts. Most of them is to basically the MU buses. So this is nice. And also I got some bearing caps. Somebody mentioned to me in one of the comments on the first one about the bearing caps. These are very small. These are very, very small. It wasn't the bearing caps that I was looking for. But we managed to find the one that was missing. So we was very happy about that. So we looked everything over. I'm looking everything over, making sure everything is good. B unit looks perfect. Yeah, let's put this down. Yeah, B looks fine. I don't see anything unusual. I don't know if you can see. The lighting's not terrific, but it's better than what I used to have. Yeah, so okay, this is good. And we got the tender. Got the tender. This looks good too. Now, for people that have rough hands, that handles things very roughly, this is not the model for you. Or if you do have this model, you have to handle this with care. I mean, you really have to deliberately handle this, because this has so many small and intricate pieces. You can actually damage a lot of this model. I mean, this model is not made to be handled a lot. Me and my uncle was actually talking about it. Oh, matter of fact, this is in good shape. This looks good. I got the when I put it on the track, you see it. You see it better. So, excuse my room's a little bit messy. Yeah. So, long time coming. It's here, and I'm going to take a further look at it. I'm going to put it on the track, unpack it, put it on the track. Maybe fix a little things before I do the next segment, if I see anything unusual. So, hang tight. Okay. The first part of the engine I'm going to actually take a look at is actually the tender. And I know you're like, oh God, why are you doing the tender? But I just want to show you guys the detail that went into this. I mean, just look at the handrails, all the plumbing, MU hoses, brake wheel, the rivets on the tender, the safety chains. Yes, this thing has safety chains. This thing is crazy. The detail is just absolutely nuts. This destroys anything that's brass. Anything that is brass. The only thing that brass has over this is that brass is much tougher than plastic. And if you are, again, like I was saying before, if you have heavy hands, I would advise you to be very, very ginger with it. Even if you don't have heavy hands. I mean, I'm like scared to handle this thing. I mean, shoot, you can't beat it. I mean, this thing is just awesome. Just sit back and just look at the detailing. It's just absolutely crazy. Now, this tender is a, I think, 23,000 gallon version with the Buckeye trucks. They also have, I believe, a 24,000 gallon, a little larger, and it has the Commonwealth trucks. And it's different between variants. I mean, I believe 1 through 14, if I'm not mistaken, is the 24,000 gallon, and the 15 through 30, I think that's correct. I gotta look it up again. It's actually in the manual. Has the 23,000 gallon. And the couplers, yes, the couplers are metal. At first I thought they were plastic because they were brown. I mean, stupid me. These things are metal. I mean, you just paint them just like anything else you paint. So they paint them prototypically what they will look like in real life. So this is it, guys. I mean, these guys, scale trains, they're not playing. They're not playing at all. They're playing for keeps. So I'm going to actually bring out the other units. So hold on. Okay, the next unit we're looking at is actually the B unit, which is the powerful turbine unit. And I actually managed to get most of the doors open on one side. And you have to be very, very careful moving these doors. I'm just opening this to take a look at it and see what's inside. You see the turbine unit inside. And the detail, I mean, it got basically everything. I mean, look at this. The side door is open too, actually. And it actually has individual handles. You don't get this with the rivet version. I mean, look how thin. This is, I mean, talking about scale, this is just ridiculous. You really have to handle these models with care. You can't pick them up through the center of the model. You would just break these apart. I mean, these are just, I mean, you see all the hoses, you see all the, you see the sanding lines. I think these bearing caps are speed sensors. I might be wrong. I could be wrong, but I mean, I would have to look at the instructions. And right now I'm just guessing. But so far I'm looking over the model. Here's the top. I try to stay within the light so this can focus. Here's the II dynamic. Well, actually that's not an II dynamic brakes, but these are the dynamic brakes. And this is supposed to be some sort of air filter for the turbine. And this is the actual exhaust of this beast. Now I have to get position of light better to actually, you can see inside of it. But and the actual turbine blades actually spin on this model too, the museum version, compared to the rivet, which doesn't spin. I mean, that's another big feat, I think. It's amazing of this model. And this particular unit was basically called the Bird Killer because of this exhaust. The exhaust was so hot, it literally fried these birds flying by it. I wouldn't want to be a bird in that period of time, getting fricasseed by this thing. I mean, flame broiled. I mean, I mean, it was just, this thing had just a ridiculous amount of heat. In some cases, when this engine was sitting under an overpass, it would literally melt the tar on the roadway. That's how hot this thing gets. I mean, you don't even want to be near this thing. And this unit was so loud, they basically had to restrict it to certain lines on the UP route because there was just too much noise. I mean, it was to the point that I think some people actually got deaf. Or temporarily, I don't know if it's temporary or permanently, but it was a monster. This thing generated so much power. And I've seen there's been some talk about resurrecting one of the turbines, but I believe it'll just be too expensive to actually do, and they will have to have a certified jet engine technician to actually work on these things. And they're not going to use the original. I mean, the theory is they're not going to use the original turbine design. They probably use something more efficient. I mean, back in the mid-50s, I mean, basically turbine technology was basically brand new. It was in its infancy. So, I mean, the turbines that they have nowadays are just light years more efficient and run better and probably produce either the same or more power. Actually, what I was reading from the little booklet there that was supplied, it was stated that they actually managed to get this thing at 10,000 horsepower. But due to reliability issues, they had to bring it down to 8,500. They ran it, I think, 10,000 horsepower for a couple of years, a few years, and they decided, you know, due to maintenance issues, they had to scale it back. And that's a testament. That's a lot of powerful one engine. It really is. It basically has as much power as some steam locomotives. The steam was king when it came to power. I mean, diesels has not come close to that. I mean, well, actually, no, actually they have not come close to that, as far as I know. I mean, the DDA-40 was at 6,600 horsepower, but it had to use two engines to do it. Two separate engines at 3,300, so that doesn't really count. You got one engine that actually produces 8,500 horsepower. That is just staggering. And they managed to get it at 10,000 horsepower. Staggering. Just staggering. But, again, the detail on this is just fantastic. It's just really, 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 sound like my uncle, fantastic. Yeah, this is really good. I mean, I'm really happy that I got this. I am so, you don't know. I might get a second one. They're gonna have another run in May. I haven't decided what version I'm going to get. If I'm going to get the earlier versions, which would kind of make sense, since this is a later model, I probably would get the earlier version. So what's coming up next will be the A unit. Last and least, the A unit, cab unit. And just like the other ones, the B and the tender, the detailing on this is just unbelievably well done. Now there is a flaw. I found there was one flaw, and if you have good eyes you can see it right now, and basically is the dynamic brake vent has dislodged from the dynamic brakes, and that's probably due to shipping. I mean, looking at the box, this thing been banged around pretty much. And if you was looking at the first video, my uncle's turbine engine, on his A unit, there was quite a few things wrong with it. I mean, the side vent was broken off, and two of the front dynamic brake vents were dislodged from the from his engine. But this one's not bad. It's just this one spot, but everything else appears to be fine. It appears to be fine. So it look like it has most of his MU hoses. I think one probably is broken, maybe. But there's one part in the I left in the packaging. But I mean, I'm not gonna hook these up now. I'm actually planning to get a display case for this engine, and when I do that, then I'm gonna hook up all the MU hoses. But other than that, again, this is so well done. Beautifully done. So we're going to get to the most exciting part, getting everything running. I'll glue this on. I won't show you that because that's boring. This is, yes, a very long video, and it's going to be over 30 minutes, if it hasn't been already. But I want to take my time with this, because I really, again, like I said in the beginning, I waited a long time for this engine to come, and it's someone to actually make it, and Scale Trains basically made it and knocked it out of the park. So stay tuned for the running. Okay, I've been kind of futzing around with this model for about 3 hours. Yeah, it's a very long time. And I'm just going over the features and seeing how everything works and how everything looks, and going over this model very thoroughly. And as I can say, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with this model. As you can see, I managed to fix the dynamic brake vent. I glue that back on. Basically what I had to do, I had to take it off completely, because it seemed like the vent is actually made out of some kind of metal. I don't know what type of metal it is, but it was warped, and this was causing it to actually come off of the dynamic brake housing. So basically I bent it back into shape. I took it off, bent it back into shape, and then I re-glued it, and it actually stayed on. Because when I tried to re-glue it, it basically acted like a spring. It just couldn't stay in one place. So, with the glue trying to cure. And I basically used aircraft canopy glue to actually glue this back on. So, yeah, it looks like brand new. So, you gotta excuse me a little bit. It's actually 2 in the morning. I've been playing around with this for so long. Yeah, so anyway, I'm trying to get my thoughts together. Yeah, I was just playing with the sounds and, seeing how the train operates. And it operates very smoothly. And it actually needed to be tweaked just a little bit. It needs my little tender loving touch to actually get this to run a bit more prototypically than it usually is. ESU decoders, they basically run extremely well right out the box. The way they set this one, it stops a little bit on the dime. I don't feel like tweaking it tonight, because my tweaks take some time to get a good feel on how to, get this engine, especially if it's running, 2 motors, to get them to work in sequence. Now, what I found interesting from reading the manual is that the decoders itself are the version 4s, or more, to be more precise, they're called lock sound version 4s. Now, the version 4s are one of the most sophisticated decoders you can actually buy. They're not cheap, and they are extremely, I won't say extremely difficult to actually program. Unless you dive into like certain functions that happen at certain times, and this, that, and the third. As long as you don't dive into that, then you're okay. If you just stick to the CVs, or you just stick to the actual application, using the Locksound programmer, you should not have any type of issues. Now, what I've noticed is that this engine doesn't have just 2 decoders. It actually has 3. Believe it or not, the tender actually has a decoder for the light. Now, I don't know what type of decoder it is. I don't know if it is a Locksound. It could be a Locksound Pilot decoder. I haven't seen anything in the instructions to indicate that it does have a decoder. Maybe the light, the PCB light board might be a decoder itself. I don't know. But you can actually program the tender to the actual road number. So I successfully done that. And back to the Locksound version 4s, they actually added what's called the ESU power pack to each of them. Basically, it's a capacitor, and if you run over a dead part of track, the engine will still be running. You know, which is a nice feature. I was surprised they added that, and that's some real good thinking right there. My opinion for the tender, the light keeps flickering on and off, indicating that there are no capacitors connected to the light, which I don't understand why they kind of missed that. But I think it would be a good idea for their second run to actually put a capacitor for the rear light of the tender, so it doesn't flicker, unless you have perfect clean track. Then you don't have to worry too much. This track that cleaned pretty well, and it was like flickering on and off. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't that great either. So they need to think about that as well when they come out with a second release. And most likely I'm going to get their second release. It's long enough a ways that I can actually get that particular, that model itself. So, without further ado, which I know everybody wants to know how it runs and all this kind of stuff, let's get started. And to start the engine is like F8, which basically starts the engine in what they call Hostler mode, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It starts up the Bessemer Cooper 8-cylinder engine that basically, more or less ferry around the engine when the turbine is not on. Basically is used for connecting, moving around the yard, connecting the trains together. It moves the turbine unit around. It can actually detach. It will work. The A unit will work on its own. If the turbine needs, if it actually needs to be maintenance, they just use the A unit to actually put it where it needs to be in the maintenance yard or facility to actually do work on these turbines. Alright, so let me get it started. Now you might excuse the mouse. Sometimes when I click on the function, it do a double click. There's a problem with my mouse, so you gotta excuse the technical difficulties. So it's like oversensitive. I gotta get a new mouse. Alright. Now as you can see, the engine is on in Hostler mode. And as you notice, the turbine is not on. Now, I didn't have a problem putting the road numbers in. The road numbers were pretty easy. It was pretty straightforward. Put it, program the road number and get that all set up. So now it's all programmed to 27, including the tender. And that's one thing I haven't done with my uncle's engine, which I'll probably do most likely tomorrow. I'm gonna be at his house most of the day tomorrow, working on the what's that? I can't think right now. I'm so tired. The ethanol plant. I'll be working on one of the silos. Try to get that done as much as I can tomorrow. And he's going to be working on basically getting the switches ready and probably working on the cornfield probably. Alright, well, back to this. Alright, yeah, I would have to work on fine-tuning my uncle's engine. I may bring some of this equipment over, because it's kind of easier to do it with the program as opposed to the command station. The command station, you can do the same thing, but you got to go strictly with CVs. This one has an interface I can look at, and I can basically know what I'm doing. Not saying that I can't do it with CVs, but I prefer it the easy way. So, okay, that's on. Now, you got your regular features. When it comes to the lighting, you got, F0 for the lights, the headlights, if I can get them on. See, that's the problem. I'm talking about the mouse. The mouse is kind of funky. Okay, the mouse actually finally worked. Alright. And you got your bell. You got your horn. Just like the other video with number 26. And I'm going to skip F3 for the moment because that's actually engaging the turbine. F4 is for dynamic brakes when the engine is actually moving, which is correct. Now F5 is night mode. Night mode basically turns on the engineer side of where the ladder is, where the engineer enters the engine. And it also turns on the light, the rear light of the A unit as well. And what is also nice is that the actual gauges, believe it or not, are lit. Yes, they actually light up, which is a very nice touch. Okay, so let's moving along. F6 is actually the classification lights. You have your white light. Let's see if I can get this right. You won't be able to see it very well with the camera because it doesn't pick up red and green very well. Let's see. Okay, this is white. And let's see, it didn't work. Okay, this is green. I'm trying to get the red. Let's see, now it's playing with me. Now it's red. Okay, there are different modes for these lights. Basically, green is for the train is actually an extra that's not shown on the timetable. White is basically, I don't quite understand what white means. It says second section of the same train, symbol or number. I don't know what that means. And red is for more or less reverse or pusher. So that's with the classification lights. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the train back a bit. And I'm going to start this thing to move. Now, one thing I noticed about this, and I don't know if there's an adjustment for it. I don't know if maybe it's the track that is on. I may have to test this on my uncle's layout. I'm debating should I bring this over tomorrow. Maybe I should. Maybe I would. I don't know. I gotta think about it. But I noticed that it squeals even on this track, on a straight track. Like the wheels start squealing. You know, the track appears to be straight, but for some reason the sensors think that it's on a curve constantly. Now I don't mind too much. I mean, granted, even some trains be squealing going down a straight. So, but you know, it seems like it stays on permanently. So you hear it right now. I set it to reverse and let's go. See, as you can see, it's a straight track, but it's squealing constantly. And as you can hear the engine going over the frogs, which is a nice effect. Okay, smooth stop. Put this to forward. I'm going to change the class lights to, I'll put it to green. The green looks nice. Alright, let's go forward. Yeah, I just may bring this to my uncle and see if it does the same thing. And if it does continue to make this squealing, I would have to contact Scale Trains to see is there any way to adjust it. I'm sure there is a way. It's controlled by the decoder, I'm assuming. So there should be some sort of CV to actually adjust this. Adjust the sensitivity of the sensors. Now with the turbine on, you don't hear this at all. I mean, you barely hear it. I mean, you know it's squealing, but that turbine is so loud. Okay. Alright, let's crank this turbine up. I'm not going to go through all the features. I mean, you've seen it with some of the other videos, and this video it's going to be extremely long as it is. I mean, there's plenty of videos out there with this engine with all different type of information. I'm trying to cover information that has not been covered on other videos that were done on this engine. Okay, so let's get this thing going. Now the thing is, which I find very interesting, is that the actual turbine blades actually rotates. It actually spins, which is a very nice feature. One thing I hope that it is reliable. It's a little noisy. You can actually hear it a little bit. But other than that, it's a very nice feature. It's a very nice touch. And this thing is very loud. I thought about making it even louder, but I think I gotta be out of my mind. This thing is ear piercing. I mean, there is a volume setting that you can actually set this thing to run either higher or lower volume. Okay, now, the thing about running in between Hostler mode and running the turbine is that in Hostler mode, they scale train, they model it like the prototype. So in Hostler mode, the engine is moving at a leisurely pace. It's not at full power. It's only using the 8-cylinder engine in the A unit. So there's not a lot of power going through the truck. But once you turn on the turbine, and this was shown in the first video with number 26, that the engine actually took off much faster, or double the speed when the turbines were on. Now my uncle, he kind of did it wrong. He actually had the turbines come on when the engine was moving. I don't believe they done it that way. I believe that once the train is hooked up to its load, when the train is ready to go on the main, then they'll turn on the turbines at a standstill, and then the train will take off. Alright, I'm going to go reverse. Now I can't really run this thing fast on this little track, but you get the idea. But as you can see, it runs very well. And the thing about the turbines is that the turbines are constantly running at full power. It doesn't throttle down or throttle up. I mean, the only time it throttles up and down when you turn the turbine either on or off. Once it's on, it is on and is running at a certain RPM. To keep the maximum amount of energy going to the traction motors. Alright. And that is it, folks. Scale trains, GTEL 8500 series, Big Blow, Union Pacific, road number 27. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a very long video. If you're still with me, that's very good. And the next video that's going to be up, next thing will be actually the S2 turbine. I got to get that out, and I'll do a review on that in the next coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. And also, we're going to do some videos at my uncle's layout. You know, maybe running a little something. I mean, the layout's not big enough to do any real running yet. But we'll see. Because I know some people like to see trains running as opposed to reviews. That was from actually one commenter. Not saying his name. So, everyone have a good evening. And take care.